All right, so thank you for coming to the new 9 weeks of, say, the online study group, Kailua study group. And today, just continuing as we do with the tape group. It's still a tape group, even though we call it study group. But basically, we're listening to Joel's tape. Today, spiritual promises explained, 114A is the tape number of Joel. And so I want to stay a bit in the scripture. So that's what we're going to use in the meditation too. It is apart from spiritual scripture, interpretation of spiritual scripture, and there's a book of Joel. And so I took some lines out of that, like one passage out of it, and I connected one expression that came in as a lesson of A Course in Miracles, but actually it is like, I will there be light. That is one of the one sentence from there. So I'm using that just because it suits really well with the text that Joel is giving us, the words that Joel is giving us. But anyway, that was just a little bit of the introduction and telling you where it comes from, what you're going to hear today. And in the meantime, so we have a meditation. In the meantime, we have an introduction to the tape, and then we go to listening to the tape, the first half hour of the tape. And some more of that later. Now the meditation. So that's so interesting to do this again. It's like, it is very new. It's very new. And even though it looks like the same structure that we have, it feels very new to me. And one essential point of that is like, we practice, we do things, we sit still. And so the idea of promises is given us today. So in this text that we use for the meditation, there's a promise in there too. And so promises in Joel's talks, for instance, when he talks about the promises that are given in Bible, so what you see is then these promises are not just promises, it's basically the reality of who you are. It's a whole idea. So, and that is, that's great in itself, because that is what it is, but you wouldn't need words for that if you experience it. So this, and that's why we come to the meditation, this meditation that we do is a moment of, say, an attempt of us. It's an attempt of us to come into communication with our Creator, just having a moment with our source, and don't look for it anywhere but inside yourself, because hey, it is there, it is nowhere else. So that was one of the biggest shifts that we at least heard about and started to integrate into our practice, seeing that nothing is outside ourselves, nothing is outside our consciousness, everything comes back to right here. So in our meditation we do that too. So in fact we have a secret meeting in a place that has nothing to do with what you see, what you think about it, with what you imagine, or any of that. So it's a secret meeting that we have, and we have a secret appointment in a place that you cannot see with your eyes, you cannot hear with your ears, and all that. So it's like, don't tell anyone that you do it. It's your secret. You don't have to tell anyone about it. Like, I'm connecting with my source, and hey, that is, in my realization of myself, the most natural thing to do, because if I would not connect with my source and walk around like a headless chicken, then yeah, then I know what's going to happen. I know that. I know that was the pain that I encountered. I know that was the loneliness that I went through. I know that was all the sickness, disease, and disaster I could possibly walk up against. So going back within, leaving everything behind, completely is like almost like a private space, but it's actually shared. But it's a secret place where we meet, and not for any other reason than to have a real moment together, to have a real moment of light, of love, connectedness, fulfillment, like literally to come to the revelation of the promises that are given us. And there cannot be a disappointment, because the promise is not only a promise, it is it's a reality in itself. It's a whole idea. It is yours. It is yours. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to do. Yeah, it's like completely given to you, completely for you to receive in this moment. That is what that is. That's the promise that you get. So now, the only decision that you make then is that you allow yourself to open yourself up for that, to give yourself the space of wanting to feel that, wanting to experience that. So that is what we do, and that is what we practice, and that's your decision. Nobody can decide that for you. So that's why I put in the last line, I will there be light. Like, that is my decision. I will there be light. And I'm coming from darkness. Look at this world. Look at the world that I believe is true for moments and moments. When I don't meditate and realize my connectedness, I'm right in there and recognize, oh my God, what happened? Oh, look at that. What a disaster. Oh, this and that. And seeming threats all around me. So that is the place of darkness that we're talking about. So this is your moment of escape out of that, to pull yourself out of it, giving yourself the space for a whole different revelation. It really is like that. It's like giving yourself the space for a different experience of yourself. And yeah, let's do that. Let's go there. Let's take time to be affected by these words and get to the bottom of it, going within. Say, conscious of our breathing, and gently, deeply breathing, relaxing the body. It's not that you have to achieve something. No, this is an action of a non-action, of stepping back more than anything and letting go. So I hope you can read it. It's not too big. All right, well, sit back and relax. I'm reading this to you and repeating it every 4 or 5 minutes. From darkness to light. Into the darkened sense comes this first ray of light with its promise of a land of milk and honey, a promise of abundance and joy. Whatever it is that first brings us this promise, it is our Moses, the Moses of the Bible, or the book of life, which I am. I will there be light. So I'll repeat this once more. From darkness to light. Into the darkened sense comes this first ray of light with its promise of a land of milk and honey, a promise of abundance and joy. Whatever it is that first brings us this promise, it is our Moses, the Moses of the Bible, or book of life, which I am. I will there be light. From darkness to light. Into the darkened sense comes this first ray of light, with its promise of a land of milk and honey, a promise of abundance and joy. Whatever it is that first brings this promise, it is our Moses, the Moses of the Bible, or the book of life, which I am. I will there be light. From darkness to light. Into the darkened sense comes this first ray of light with its promise of a land of milk and honey, a promise of abundance and joy. Whatever it is that first brings us this promise, it is our Moses, the Moses of the Bible or the book of life, which I am. I will there be light. From darkness to light, into the darkened sense comes this first ray of light with its promise of a land of milk and honey, a promise of abundance and joy. Whatever it is that first brings this promise, it is our Moses, the Moses of the Bible or the book of life, which I am. I will there be light. Great. Thank you so much for being in the meditation with me. That's lovely. Thank you. Thank you. So, continuing on, slowly starting with the preparation. The preparation for the talk, like scriptural promises explained. And yeah, promises, that's an interesting idea. So it's something that's going to come, or something that's connected to certain circumstances, something that you can expect to happen. So we meditated on that too, in a certain sense, because it was like the promises of a land of milk and honey. And so humanly thinking, that would, yeah, you would see that back in your bank account, or a swimming pool in your backyard, or who knows what, a big car, or abundance, like enough for everyone, enough for you. That can be your ideas about abundance. So that, yeah, that is always a bit of that what the promise is, and your imagination of what that promise will bring. What relevance does that have? In fact, that could be the question. It's like, what relevance does that have? What I think about what that promise will bring me. Actually, that's, yeah, does not have a lot of meaning in reality. So being created perfectly, not, yeah, like this is the way that you were created is whole and perfect, is complete and doesn't miss anything, and it's complete in this moment. And so any promise about that would be like, yeah, when is that going to happen then? If it isn't now, when is it going to happen? So obviously we have yeah, a paradox here. It's in fact a paradox that you step right into. So you're offered promises, but then your imagination of the promise is not what it will be. In fact, you don't know anything yet. You don't know anything yet. But the thing is that something happens when the first ray of light that stirs you from the inside, so to speak, when you do your meditation, or when you have a moment that it suddenly happens, and that you feel the stirring of that light in you, that promise becomes very, like, yeah, real to you. And the promise is more like, there's more of that, what I just experienced. There's more of that. There's more stillness. There's more love. There's an abundance of that. There's abundance of life, say, flowing through me. If I, yeah, allow that, if I stick with with the path, so to speak, with my practice, in the undoing of what I think I am, because that's still what we have to deal with in this undoing. But so one of the words that came to mind was hypnotism. It's like, who knows that he's being hypnotized? Like, do you know on what scale you're hypnotized? Do you know that you're actually under hypnosis in your human way of dealing with everything, and you still think it's pretty normal, you know? Or you, yeah, sometimes you bump your head and say like, oh my God, I really thought that was still the truth about me. I can't believe it that I just stepped into that I believe that again, that I think that there are separate bodies, and that I can be lonely, or that there can be such thing as a disaster, or that there can be such thing as disease. You know, it's hypnotism. It's like you're completely hypnotized. And so now and then you have a moment that isn't that, and you call that an epiphany. You know, it's like that. And it's actually funny when you look at it, isn't it? Like most of the time you're completely hypnotized and not conscious at all. And then suddenly there's something happening. You read a great line that hits you, whoa, right in the face, and it's like, yeah, oh wow, I love this. I want more of that. Well, here's your promise. There's more of that. There's more of that. As much as you want, you can completely dive into it. But in your hypnotic state, you actually don't even want it. So that is what Joel will bring in during the first, say, 20 minutes too. I think he says it like that. He says it in the first 20 minutes, and it has a bit of the same as what I'm sharing with you now. Like, it's amazing. You're not aware of how much you walk around in a hypnotic state, and reading great stuff, great lines, but most of that what you read is also just flying by, or not really stirring deeply within you, disrupting your whole life, and it's like, oh my God, my life will never be the same again. It's not that we have that experience every day. And I don't know, is that a necessity to have that? No, it is just like, how conscious can you be to realize that you're walking around in a hypnotic state? And this hypnotic state is in your human experience of yourself, dangerous to you. It's a constant threat. It puts you right into fear. It is very temporal. So it puts you on a timeline which is going to end. So it's like a clock ticking and showing you, okay, you got another 10 years, maybe you have another 5 years, or maybe you have another week, or maybe you have another day. And before you know it, you start to believe that too. You really think that you're a 60-year-old or an 80-year-old or a 20-year-old. And with all the consequences that are related to it in that mechanism that you walk around in that whole, in fact, like machinery thinking, or thinking as a robot. In fact, you're programmed. So that's something else, isn't it? So you don't realize that continuously. Otherwise you wouldn't be in pain. Otherwise you would not be walking around with all kinds of ideas about your physicality, or relationship problems, or who knows what it is, anything. So that's so great that we have all these tapes of Joel, that we can come to this study group and actually being confronted a little bit like, hello, wake up. You're in a hypnotic state, and you don't have to stay in that. There's an alternative, but you got to choose it. You got to become open to it. And it's not an easy way to let this hypnosis go. It's not an easy way. It's hard work. Hard work to allow yourself to go absolutely 180 degrees the other way. Walking a very thin line where you have no support of anyone. Like, really, you walk that path alone. So and that is intense. Who wants to do that? If you have a beautiful dream in your hypnosis, and thinking that, well, with a little bit of this and that, I will keep on going. I'll manage it. I'll manage this. It's like, who wants to step off that? Unless you're being hit by the light, literally, like, or knocked off your horse in some way, or being stirred by light, just overwhelming you completely. Seeing, whatever I thought this was is gone. I cannot see it in the same way ever again. Now what am I supposed to do? So this is the invitation, but also the continuing question that's pointed at you. It's like, when are you going to wake up? When are you going to actually let go of your robotic you, of the artificial intelligence called the human being, of the whole programming of thinking that you have to do it a certain way, and that would be your fulfillment? So the promises that are given in what we read and what we will hear from Joel, the promises that are given are from a completely different place. It's like it has no relationship with your hypnotic state. It has no relationship with your daily life as such as you see it. And however hard you try to look for it and try to connect it, and this doesn't happen here. So it has nothing to do with the place that you're seeing. And that's another step in the, say, dehypnotizing procedure that you're in your awakening. So, do you still want to listen to the tape? Is then the question. Or maybe you want to watch a movie instead. So, well, you have a chance. Go and do whatever you need to do. It's like it's completely voluntary. Nobody can force you to do anything. Of course not. You have a free will to decide to stay in your hypnotic state, or to get out of it, to go for the alternative. So this goes on and on and on. It's so great. So whether we use Bible for that, Scripture, New Testament, Old Testament, or we use any book, any spiritual scripture that's related to this, it will tell you if it's about awakening, truly awakening from this hypnotic state. It will tell you all the same story in that sense. It's like that. It still comes down to you. That's what this is about. It's not what's in the books. It's not about having great words for it. No, it's about you deciding that for yourself, allowing some new experience to come to you, and taking another look at what is actually occurring during your day and where you believe yourself to be. Because that's where it really is. It's like you believe yourself to be in a place of limitation, of disease, disaster, and death. Do you really think that God has put you in there? Like his beloved son in who he is well pleased? Do you think that God placed you in that place to suffer and to all this? No. So there's a promise that none of this is so, that none of the limiting ideas that you are perceiving and undergoing have any reality. Like none of it is so. But you take one thing from it and you get the whole story. You take one thing out of that and you treasure it. You're caught in it. Just like we said the other day, it's like, yeah, where's your treasure? Your treasure is where your heart is. So if your heart is in your hypnosis, so to speak, then that's where you are. So and that heart is that what you value. What is it that you value? Whether that's a negative value, positive value, it is. I've no money. I have a lot of money. It would be the same idea. I'm very healthy or I'm sick. It is the same idea. So all these dualistic polarities tell you the same thing. It's like it's not really, it's not really a polarity at all. So it comes together, but it's, say, absolute an ingredient of your whole hypnotic state. That's all. So that means it is not a reality. So yes, you can wake up out of it, but it will ask something of you, in the sense a decision and willingness and, say, determination to go through that, to, despite of what anyone else is saying, just walking that narrow path and go for it. That is where the fulfillment will be, that is being promised, and not as a future idea, but no, with every step that you take in that direction, you feel the relief and say that growing in you. You feel a Christ child being born in you. You feel your own rebirth. And it goes step by step, deeper and deeper. But every time something is shifting in that, you might not even feel good right away. You might even be confused for some time, but you go through it. You don't let yourself be devastated by it, or you don't let yourself be stopped by it. That's actually a better word, because the devastation might still be there. That's all right, but you go through it. You just go through it. Stand still and just go for it. Yeah, so that's what Joe tells you in his own way in the first half hour of the tape that we're going to listen to. So I want to give you the space and time to take a break. I will play a beautiful song, and I will see you in 5 minutes, just about. Thank you.